What's up, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Navigating Dental Insurance Podcast. I am your host today, Jordon Comstock. With me, a good friend in the dental industry, Steve Parker from Profitable Dentist Magazine. What's up, Steve? How you doing?
I'm groovy. How are you, Jordan?
I'm doing groovy, man. So for people that
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for asking me to be on. I'm ready to dive into it.
Let's dive into it. For people that may not know who you are, explain to our audience who you are and what you do in the dental scene.
So this was started by Dr. Woody Oakes, and if you're a dentist of a certain vintage, you got mail from Woody every 10 days. You probably went to one of our Destin Spring Break seminars. A lot of great things happened there. People like Howard Ferran, first time he ever spoke was at our Spring Break seminar. Rick Workman got the idea for Heartland sitting on the patio at our Destin seminar. So we really, Woody kind of put together a thing. It was the first private meeting in dentistry. In fact, he got a nasty letter from the ADA that said, how dare you put the words profitable and dentist in the same sentence.
No way.
From the name of our magazine. And, so they challenged him and said, why shouldn't we? And why should we have and I love the midwinter, don't get me wrong, but if I have a choice between going to something called Chicago Midwinter at the end of January or February in Chicago on the Lake, or Destin, Florida Spring Break seminar, going to Destin. So we help pioneer the ability to get CE, Destin, Florida. So we helped pioneer the ability to get CE at private events in the late 80s, and it just exploded from there. Out of that came the magazine, which started as the nationwide dental newsletter that Woody literally printed on a Xerox copier in the basement of the practice that his grandfather started in 1903. So we've been in dentistry a long time. We've made tremendous transitions to digital. We have sort of helped dentists understand the evolution to the DSO phase, some things we're going to talk about, how that's changed the industry. And, Woody started when dentistry was really becoming a thing. Having a hygienist was novel, and you just didn't have them. Dental insurance didn't exist. We were through that, through that transition phase. So, dentists did their own hygiene. So, and we've given over 1 million hours of CE through DVDs, through meetings. Oh, absolutely. They were their own lab. So a lot of that has evolved rapidly, and here we are in 2026, and it's interesting how we got here. And dentistry still for private practice dentists, still a very vibrant, legitimate, valuable career choice. And hopefully we'll cover a little bit of that today. But that's who we are. We're here for the private practice dentist.
Absolutely. No, that's awesome. I've always enjoyed your guys' stuff, and we've been friends for years now, seeing each other at all events. I need to go to Destin, Florida, though. That sounds fun. So let's do this. One of the questions I've had on the podcast this week is the state of dentistry. I was reading the ADA's report that came out a few months ago, and it says that revenue growth over the past 5 years has been 1.4%, and the expenses are growing at 4.9%, so like a 3.5 times more than revenue. So I'd like to get, since your guys' magazine is the Profitable Dentist Magazine, it's like, okay, profits are being squeezed. What are your thoughts on this, and what should we do?
Yeah, and that is a great question. And again, that's where, before dental insurance, you hung out a shingle, you collected your money, and, people paid you and whatever they paid you when they did, but you didn't have to worry about those kind of things. ADA is right. I'm going to say that, and I'm going to say this with an asterisk by it. Sure. The fault is DSOs, but it's not what you think it is. So when I say that in front of a group of dentists, 10 or 15 or 20 years ago, Jordan, if I'm speaking to a big crowd of dentists and I just say DSO, somebody's going to throw their shoe at me. Just the idea of it. Well, now they realized that, it's not such a bad idea. In fact, it's sort of a corporate structure is all it is.
Yeah.
But what came with it was giant private equity-backed DSOs, which weren't so good for a private practice dentist who, had 15 or 20 more years to retirement and needed that little corner that he or she has been on for 20 years to kind of be still a viable spot. DSOs changed that. For a long time, it was, hey, they can do this because they charge less and they do crappy work. Their dentists are terrible and yada, yada, yada. That's not the case. First of all, they went to the same dental school you probably did. They got a license in the same state you did, taking the same test. And at the end of the day, Heartland's a $1 billion company. You don't get to be a $1 billion company providing terrible service to
right?
your clients, your customers. So you got to give them credit where it's due. What they do is dentistry at scale. That's what they do. They don't, it doesn't mean that they don't connect well with their patients, but they can only do so much. Their dentist might not be in that office for 40 straight years. There might be 5 or 6 or 7 dentists. One of the things that they do well and not well at the same, double-edged sword is they have become a great employer of female dentists. Of which this year we might hit 60% of dental school graduates are women.
Interesting.
They go work for a DSO, and the DSO says, we love having you here, right out of dental school. Over 50% have a professional spouse or significant other, so their husband or wife is an attorney or an accountant, or they might be the breadwinner. So if it's a female, of the 6 out of 10 who are graduating, and they decide 3 years from now they don't want to take 6 weeks off to have a baby. They want to take 6 months off, maybe a year. DSO says, take all the time you want, and when you want to come back, your job's here. Now you might be working, on the east side of town in that office now, and you might go to the west side of town, but you have a job, and a pretty good paying job, and an ESOP or some kind of retirement. So they gave a lot of, those are the people who are working for DSOs. We're right now at about 35% of dentists work for a large group. And whatever that definition is, and it's kind of massaged around a little bit, 65-ish% to 60% are still private practice dentists. I believe we've peaked. I believe that's where it's going to settle. Acquisitions are getting less. Scaling of big DSOs has tapered off, probably past the tipping point, which means dentistry is still going to be a cottage industry, mom and pop, a solo doc. But what the solo doc has done is said, all right, I'm not just going to be a dentist now and, come into work for 40 years and then retire and buy an RV and drive off into the sunset. They realize they have to run their business and not just talk about it, they have to do it. And all the things that come with that. They've got to manage their top line, which is money coming in, we're going to talk about, and which is 1.4%, and money going out, which is costs, and what's left over is profit, the money you get to spend as the owner. Profitability, practically our middle name. So that's where our focus is what's left over. And it's a function of what's coming in and what's going out. So to answer your question, I think what's happened is the 1.4% is mostly reimbursements. You will never get an insurance company come to you and say, man, Doc, you have done a fantastic job this year. We know that you're writing off 35%. It's your most expensive marketing plan. You're writing off 35% to reimbursements for us. You've done so good, we're only going to do 30% next year. Literally is never going to happen. If you're in that game and you're fighting that monster, every year you're going to have to, at best they're going to stay the same. At worst, they're going to say, hey, we're going to mark, and now we're writing off your reimbursements. 37% are getting written off. Now you got to work, 5 or 6 or 7% more next year to make the same as last year. And about the third or fourth year in a row, you end up with 1.4% of revenue. So a lot of it is reimbursements, and a lot of it, if you're following the math, is with those private dentists. Because DSOs are getting their fee schedule from big insurance companies. They just
can
are.
Negotiate.
Yeah, and I got bad news for you, Doc. Oh, if they're Jordon, every week I have somebody who says, I'm going to negotiate with them. I've got 6 offices or 10 offices. Heck, I got 20 offices. I can tell you that while that's big to you, that is not big to them. It is not enough for them to negotiate anything significant in your reimbursement. So your revenue, if what you're doing is hygiene, crown and bridge, an implant here and there, and maybe throw in a little bit of lower level ortho, you're not getting it. You're going to fight next year you'll be happy with that 1.4%. The second thing is costs. What DSOs were able to do is come in, and I promise you, this person who's got 15 offices goes to, Patterson or Shine or any of them and says, hey, I want to negotiate down my cost pricing. And they get a giant 7, 10, 12, 15%, enormous reduction in cost. I can tell you that DSO is getting 50% or more. You're not close. It would shock you. It would make you mad. You'd want to throw a brick at somebody that what they're paying for the same thing you are, 100 yards away. You're never getting that. On your own. So those two things alone have driven up cost or held them steady. I think more likely what's happening is revenue's dropping faster than cost, so it makes that percentage seem a little bit off. But basically, costs are creeping up, revenue's creeping down. So, and it's the fault of DSOs. But the great thing is, you get to learn from what they're doing.
Sure.
So they'll teach you how to manage your reimbursements, and they'll teach you how to manage your procurement cost. And there are a lot of groups you can buy now, group purchasing, GPOs, that you can get pretty close to paying what a DSO is paying. You have to join them. There's a membership fee, but they have the same, ironically, a lot of these were started by former DSO employees, corporate people. We have one, it was TPD Buyers Group, TPD Advantage. We've done it since the late 80s. Woody put them together, but he had to do them on his own. So he would find a lab, or he would find a supply company, and he would find somebody. Now we do them. They're all online. TPD Advantage has grown in a way that we never could have imagined, but it's because a doc looks at it and says, now I'm not just buying supplies cheap. I'm buying a cone beam, or I'm buying a digital scanner, or I'm buying these things. I'm buying employment services. I need a hygienist. Here's somebody who's a headhunter that's in my GPO, in my buying group. Legal services. You want to set up a corporation, start your own little group. You want to have 5 docs, you and 4 of your friends. There are legal services within these groups now you just didn't have access to before. DSOs always did, because they got, $100 million budget for it. So the great thing is the cost part of the equation is getting better because of DSOs, because they just exist. And these groups said, instead of one DSO with 200 offices, here's 200 private practice docs together. It's the same buying power. Revenue-wise, there are a lot of people moving away from insurance, kind of getting to your part of the conversation. Yeah. I'm a huge fan of membership plans, because where I see the mistake is docs saying, oh my gosh, my revenue's growing 1.4%. I got to crash every PPO I'm in and set up a membership plan, and it goes disastrously sideways, and you can probably speak to that better than me. But I watch the ones who do it strategically over time, call out the dead wood in their PPOs that are losing them money. They're writing off 40 and 45%. They got 6 patients in a PPO, same overhead, same time for their staff to deal with it. Most of them are afraid they'll lose those patients. You and I have talked before, most don't. But those are the people that I see that aren't living with 1.4%. they're seeing steady growth. And they're also adding products. They're doing some oral systemic health. They're doing clear aligners. They're doing
Botox. We've got
a partner that does braces, Botox, all the things that you might want to do. And if you say, I'm never doing Botox, then don't do Botox.
Don't do
but
it.
If you say, man, I got a lot of patients that are, coming in and they have sleep issues, you can do clear aligners and treat sleep now. There's a company, that partner we work with, that do wired brackets where you don't have to bend a single wire.
Wow.
All these things that if you're fee for service, you get to say, and your patient doesn't expect it. They're loyal to you because of what you're doing, not because you take their insurance. And suddenly they change jobs and they call you and say, sorry, I got to go somewhere else. You don't take this insurance. You just lost a patient, not because of how good a dentist you are, because you don't take their insurance. So you can't do it in one fell swoop, but you're really good at saying, let's strategically get you out of the crappy insurances first, transition to whatever you want to call it. It's not insurance, but a membership plan that's internal. And once your team grasps onto it and you get it, I just see them not worrying about the top line anymore. It's growing and they're happy.
Well, what typically happens, Steve, is what I see.
So I know that's a lot. That's
Go ahead. Sorry, there's a slight delay.
No, that's a lot, and I see it. If you want to keep doing, so here's the deal. It took 5 years to get to 1.4% top line growth and a 4.9% cost and expenses growth. You don't get out of that, in a quarter. You don't get out of that by, finishing watching this podcast and clicking a button and signing up for something. You're done. But if you say, hey, over the next 18 months or 2 years, I want to do this. I want to be X% insurance reimbursement, and I want to be X% fee for service, where I get to set the fees. I get to decide. I don't have any pre-Ds anymore. I decide. And if I got a hole in the schedule and there's a crown, we just do the crown now. If the patient's on a membership plan, you can do it right now. You done. That's a lot of power in the hands of somebody who's saying, all right, I need better than that revenue, and cost-wise, I need to trim my cost. You just did both, and you have a ton of control. And, you do that for a few years. First of all, you get free of it, and you do it for a few years, you'd be shocked at what happens to your bottom line. I mean, I've seen practices that don't change their top line much at all, but double their profit. I mean, they'll add $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 a month and do almost no changes at all in their cadence. And then I've seen practices. I watched a woman a few years ago, right out of COVID, took her practice from like 1.2 million to 3 million, and she liked doing oral systemic treatment, was enthused by it. Those are fee-for-service patients.
Yep. So
while they're coming for sleep treatment or oral DNA treatment, suddenly they're just coming for a plain old crown and bridge treatment. And they're doing implants. They're doing all the things that they do. She was getting 100% of her fee schedule. So her revenue just grew 35 to 40%, doing nothing different other than not taking their crappy insurance and doing it internally. And that's easily accomplishable.
Yeah, so we were talking before. What you said in COVID, you knew somebody that was a fee-for-service doc, and then during COVID, they panicked and maybe signed up under too many PPO plans. Tell us that story and what they're doing now.
Yeah. So how it starts, and this is just, there are tons. I hear this all the time. It starts with we're fee-for-service and we're one office, and we only take, some, and I don't know the insurances that well, but, something insurance where we're getting our fee schedule. Yeah. And COVID comes along and they think, we need to be prepared for a change in patients. So we've got a new office, and in that office, we're going to take the insurances. So when somebody calls and says, do you take our insurance? You can say, well, yes, we do over at our Northside office.
Interesting.
And over time, each year, again, you're looking at the revenue. Suddenly, cash is coming in. And it takes a little while to look at the bottom line and say, but expenses have gone up. I always say, so when I would see somebody writing off, first thing we do was the math in my old consulting days, and say they're writing off 35%. They're $1 million practice.
Yeah.
And I would say, all right, if I come to you and I say, I'm going to, for simply $30,000 a month,
Yeah.
30 grand a month, I'll give you 20 new patients. And they would say, that's ridiculous. You're crazy. And I would say, you're writing off almost $360,000 in reimbursements. That's $30,000-ish a month over the course of it.
Yeah, and that's like, if you do the math, that's $1,500 per patient on an acquisition cost standpoint with the numbers you gave.
Right.
It's crazy.
And but because they're still getting a check, they don't see that, well, the check would have been 35% higher if I hadn't done this. It's a check, and it's cash flow, and I need to meet payroll, and I need to, pay the bills, and I got rent. They don't see that. And then they start doing the math exactly like that and say, well, wait a minute now. And I would say, if you want 20 new patients, how about this? I'll walk down the street and give a $100 bill to the first 20 people who decide to be your patient. And you're coming out hundreds of thousands of dollars ahead every year.
Yeah.
And it doesn't click. It's just almost like it's part of it. So do that for 2 or 3 years, and suddenly what's happened is your profit margin, which used to be 30, 35, 40%, in this case got down to 8 to 10. And they don't know what's happening. And suddenly money's tight, and it's because this has just crept in and taken over. Now you got to figure out how to get out of it. And again, it took 5 years to build up to that incrementally, where now it's going to take, it's easy. That first step is easy. There's terrible ones, and you're going to spot them. And they're whatever percentage. Again, you know these numbers better than I. 25, 30% are just terrible. You shouldn't be taking them. And if it's 700 patients, you go through this for 6 months and you find out 650 of the patients stayed, and you picked up 70 more, so you're ahead, and you were scared to death. And then you get a little bit more surgical and strategic about it, and over the course of 2 years, you're out. And at the same time, though, you've got to give them something. That's why I like membership plans. You can say, we don't take your insurance, but let's start doing some math. And what we'll find many, many, many times is they don't even know what they're paying for dental. They think their employer is paying it. They're not. Their employer is offering it. Yeah. They're paying it. And they're paying $50 every paycheck. It's $100 a month. And they suddenly, a membership plan is half that. And they say, well, wait a minute, what do I get with a membership plan? Well, we make all the decisions. Everything is here. So you've got to get them into that space where they're thinking like a business person. I can tell you that the DSOs that they're scared of are absolutely doing it. And with a sales structure that they've got dedicated people. Your team can learn it. I've seen it happen. It's probably, if I would say anything for revenue, it's the number one thing that you can do. And I'm not, pitching for you. I don't get anything out of it, but I'm a big believer for that reason. It gets you not held hostage by the insurance and the write-off and a huge reimbursement.
Yeah, no, I agree big time. And like what we're seeing today in dentistry at least with all of our customers here at BoomCloud, practices are wanting to cut more and more PPO plans because of the issue, but they're doing it a little bit smarter than they have in the past, where they sign up their first 100, then 200 members, and then they look at how much recurring revenue they're generating off of that, and then drop a PPO plan and create a financial safety net first, right? That's what most practices are doing today, which I like. I love it. That's way smarter. It's strategic, and it builds a safety net versus fear and risk.
your patients are also coming to you because of you, not because you take the insurance that their current employer offers them. And I mean, it happens every day. You know, docs suddenly they've lost a patient, and they call and they say, well, you don't take my insurance anymore because I work for this company. And then, you know, if you don't have a handle on it, your front desk person says, well, we'll sign up for them. And now you have, I mean, Jordon, I've seen practices with over 100 PPO plans with less than 3 people on them for this exact reason, because they didn't want to lose the patient.
Is that because,
number one, your patient is loyal to you. Yeah, they just, the patient's loyal to you because you take their insurance. And number two, they're loyal to you usually because you take really low reimbursing insurance. So you feel like you've gained a patient, but you know, some of these, if you're writing off 30, 35, 40%, you're losing money every time that patient comes in.
Yeah.
And if you have a, you know, good sized treatment, you are absolutely losing money. Your chair should be generating, depending on where you are, $500 to $750, your restorative chair every hour. And when you get a patient, you're getting a reimbursement from first of all, they're putting you on an $850 crown fee schedule and writing off 35%. You just lost $200 by doing that crown. And docs are figuring that out. I can tell you, DSOs figured that out. The way they figured it out was, number one, they got a good handle on cost, but number two, they're getting their fee schedule. They're getting it. You know, Delta's not going to let them go. If they're a DSO and they're running $30 million through Delta, they're getting their fee schedule.
Sure.
You're never going to get that. So the quicker I always people want to do it right now. And I always remember this thing. It was, if you want to sit in the shade, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago.
Yeah, 20 years ago.
The second best time is right now.
Yes.
And yeah, you can't undo it. And what I've seen people get mad at is they say, wait a minute, well, if I'd have done this 10 years ago, I could have had half the active patients and been making more money. Yes, and only work 4 days a week instead of 5. And, you know, staying late on Wednesdays and coming in early on Tuesdays and, you know, working one Saturday a month or whatever you're doing. If you're not writing it off, yes, you could have been making that money. And you said something to me during COVID, I remember, about the percentage of revenue that the people who dropped their membership plan during COVID. And it was tiny. It was almost insignificant. And those docs are still they're sitting at home for 2 or 3 or 4 months, and there's still a paycheck coming in. And because patients were afraid to drop their membership plan.
Yeah. No, that was a big thing during COVID where practices with healthy membership programs were, you know, when they shut down, revenue was still flowing in because, well, the beautiful thing about having a patient membership program is you don't start your month at 0 like a traditional dental office does, right? So when you have that recurring revenue come in, especially during the COVID time, it helped a lot of practices throughout that time. And even today, like, with profit margins being squeezed because of low reimbursements, it's the solution of today as well, right? It's like, take control of your revenue, offer your membership plan, and get those patients come in. Those patients tend to spend more with you anyways. They're a better patient type. So I don't know. We still see good things today.
It's a hard message, and I can tell you, it is just easy. You know, dentists, especially private practice dentists, you know, our docs, our audience, private docs just want to come in and do the dentistry. And, you know, they want to hand off the business to somebody else. And you can do that, but with these changes, you know, the things Woody talked about 20 or 30 years ago, hygiene, you know, there were dentists who, I should pull out some numbers or some articles for you. It's just, you know, about hygiene will be the death of dentistry. And, you know, somebody said, yeah, but if we're doing hygiene, number one, it's not that expensive. Patients will come in twice a year, and our hygienist gets to look in there and find some crowns we need to do. So we're going to treatment plan restorative off of hygiene. Today, people think, well, I don't know, who wouldn't do that? But I can tell you in the 70s, into the 80s, some of them into the early 90s, even today, I could name you half a dozen docs who are big name docs around the country who speak on how to run your practice with no hygienist. And while that's it's a model and it works, and you can be profitable and have a good career, it's a lot of work for you, and you'll never grow bigger than what you're willing to do, what you're willing to produce yourself every week. So it's not for everybody. It's certainly not for 99% of the 200,000 general dentists in America. But yeah, that was pretty controversial. Just like a membership plan, getting your head around what it is and what it's not, and how really I see it as fundamentally helping you get off of that dependency and codependency of
reduce the PPO tax,
terrible reimbursements for insurance. It's your most expensive marketing. PPO tax, love it. Yeah, it is your most expensive marketing cost, is what you write off to get patients from somebody's, you're in the book, you're in network. And again, they change jobs, there goes a good patient. So with your membership plan, they're there forever, and they know why they're there.
Yeah.
And again, I think if you do the math and teach your team, they're probably paying less than they're paying that comes out of their paycheck, and they don't even think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, this has been an awesome episode, Steve. I really appreciate you coming on today. What for our listeners that are just discovering you, how can they learn more about what you're doing? What you got a website? Tell our listeners about all that stuff.
Awesome. We have theprofitabledentist.com has about 3,000 articles of content, videos. We're relaunching what we call TPD Vault, which is about 30 years of people. Again, you can see Howard Farran at his first speaking gig. So we kind of call that legacy content. It's a lot of doctors that, if you're a certain vintage, you know who these people are. You probably saw them speak at Midwinter or Hinman or Greater New York or Yankee or one of these big dental meetings. And it's just interesting. What they said 20 years ago is still relevant today. They are still dedicated to private practice dentistry. There are just some nuances. We are launching courses with our key opinion leaders, people who for years and years and years would come to your office and speak, are now recording and doing their courses in a learning management platform through our site, through our ecosystem. So you can take the courses, some are paid, some are free, but it's a way for you to expand your knowledge and, as a private practice dentist.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That's really cool. So be sure to go visit the site. I'll leave this show, the URL in the show notes, so you guys can see what Steve's up to. But Steve, I really appreciate you coming and hanging out with me on the show today. And I'll have you on some more episodes as we deep dive into all the things that dentists are dealing with today.
Anytime. And we kind of have our finger on the pulse of what dentists are going through, and there are a lot of things. Profitability is always, for a private practice dentist, starts at the top. They don't teach it to you in dental school. They teach you to do a lot of dentistry, and things will just work out. And that doesn't work anymore. So our job is to kind of teach you, your practice owner education starts when you get out and start being a practice owner. Your dental education is, I'll tell them, still work on your clinical skills, but don't think great clinical skills are going to change your profitability. Running your business better changes your profitability. And if you don't want to worry about that stuff, be an employee. Go work for a large DSO and they'll take care of you. But, dentistry is a very independent cottage industry, and docs like owning their own practice. And I think we've plateaued at about 60-ish, 65%. Had a lot of conversations with, not naming names, but a lot of large dental industry organizations. And, we do a lot of informal get-together and what are you seeing? And that's kind of the consensus. The DSO invasion of dentistry has done a lot of good things if you look at it, but it's kind of plateaued. You won't see the velocity of of the takeover anymore. So if you're going to be a private practice owning dentist, you just need to get a little bit smarter at it, and you got a great career ahead of you.
Yeah, no, I agree. So I again appreciate you coming on the show, man. I'll make sure this gets sent out live, and I'll let you know when it's live for all of our listeners. But with that said, we hope everyone has a rockin' day.
Yeah, you got it. See you, Jordan. Thanks.